They're working for somebody else. Honourable Phil Heatley.
Speaker, it's interesting that the member brings up the Sky City Convention Centre because the tourism industry for decades has been asking various governments and themselves how they can get an international convention centre in New Zealand. It is true that as part of that convention centre there will be gaming machines. The New Zealand public in some way have found comfort in the fact that the number of gaming machines throughout New Zealand has decreased substantially over the last 5 years. Across New Zealand in bars and pubs are just gradually coming down. And furthermore, even though there's going to be gaming machines in the new convention centre, the number of gaming machines throughout New Zealand is going to continue to decrease, which is good. Now, I'm not necessarily pro-gambling, but I think it's important to put into perspective that this convention centre, worth about $400 million in private investment, is going to be built in Auckland. It's going to attract international conventions, which we've never held in New Zealand before, that during construction phase there might be up to 1,000 people involved. During the operational phase, many hundreds of jobs. And that is what this International Convention Centre is all about. So here's a convention centre that produces jobs. The Green Party and the Labour Party are against it. But here's the common thread. They're not just against the convention centre that will produce jobs and growth. The Green Party and the Labour Party have at every turn opposed the dairy industry expanding in New Zealand. The Labour Party and the Green Party oppose oil and gas exploration. They oppose the exploration of minerals. There's more jobs and growth out the window. So the Labour Party, who are all for jobs apparently, and the workers, are against the convention centre. They're against oil and gas exploration. That's occurred in Taranaki for 100 years with no problems. They're against mining, which has occurred in the West Coast for hundreds of years without any problems. They're also against, Mr. Speaker, irrigation. The irrigation of land in the South Island. They're concerned about that. The Labour Party are railing against that. More jobs and growth. Marine farming, aquaculture. Every time some business person who wants to employ people and create a business and income for himself and his family, or herself and his family, every time they propose a marine farm, the Green Party and the Labour Party are against it. More jobs and growth they oppose. And of course, in the film industry, they rail against Warner Brothers, who tried to stop the unions closing down the Hobbit movies in New Zealand. Jerry Brownlee and John Key stepped in some way that was above board and made sure that the Hobbit movies were actually filmed in New Zealand. The Labour Party and the Green Party were against that. Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying to the New Zealand public is this, is where once we had a Labour Party who were all for the workers and who supported the beneficiaries, is now a Labour Party who will only be for the beneficiaries because they oppose work. Every opportunity to produce jobs, the convention centre, marine farming, irrigation, oil and gas exploration, the exploration of minerals, the convention centre, the film industry, the Labour Party are against it. There will be no work. They will be a party, Mr. Speaker, for beneficiaries. Mr. Speaker, whereas the National Party, as you know, over the last 5 years have worked with New Zealanders, with businesses, with public trusts and all sorts of community organisations to create jobs, to circle the wagons and work ourselves out of the recession, to go through quite difficult times to a point where now we see unemployment dropping, employment increasing, we're seeing interest rates being held We're seeing the best mortgage interest rates for 50 years. We're in a position where we won't want to put it all at risk. We won't want to put the Labor Party, who apparently are all for jobs but against all sorts of investment. Mr Speaker, I'm very proud to be part of a national party that have managed this economy over 5 years, and I cannot see why the New Zealand public would put all that at risk.
Speaker, Honi Harawira.